I never thought my life would change so dramatically at a party I didn't even want to attend. Looking back now, I can pinpoint that exact moment when everything shifted. When I first locked eyes with him across Jenna's crowded living room. My name is Morgan, and 6 months ago, I moved to Seattle for a fresh start after a messy breakup. Starting over at 32 wasn't exactly in my life plan, but neither was catching my ex-fiancé with his secretary. Classic, right? You can't hide in your apartment forever, Jenna had insisted earlier that evening, practically dragging me to her housewarming party. The dental office will survive one night without their best hygienist. I was nursing my second glass of wine in the corner, watching people mingle, when Jenna materialized beside me. See that guy by the window? That's Ethan Stone. He's single, successful, and definitely your type. I'm not looking for. I started to protest, but then he turned around. Tall, with salt and pepper hair and kind eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. He caught me staring and raised his glass slightly. Too late, Jenna whispered, already waving him over. Ethan, come meet Morgan. The next hour flew by as we talked about everything and nothing. Ethan was charming, self-deprecating, and actually listened when I spoke. He told me about his work as a financial consultant, his love for obscure documentaries, and his teenage son Tyler. Single dad? I asked, trying to sound casual. Divorced, he replied, something flickering behind his eyes. Tyler lives with his mom most of the time, but we're working on rebuilding our relationship. There was weight to those words, a story he wasn't telling. Before I could probe further, his phone buzzed. The change in his expression was subtle but immediate, like a cloud passing over the sun. Everything okay? I asked. Just Tyler, he said, typing rapidly. Teenager stuff. You know how it is. But his hands were shaking slightly as he put the phone away, and that easy smile seemed more forced now. The party was winding down when Ethan asked for my number. I'd love to take you to dinner sometime, he said. There's this great little Italian place downtown. I hesitated. My heart was still bruised, and something about his earlier reaction to that text nagged at me. But there was also something magnetic about him, something that made me want to know more. I'd like that, I heard myself say. As I was leaving, I overheard a snippet of conversation from the kitchen. A woman's voice, tense and urgent. Ethan, you can't keep covering for him. This has to stop. I glanced back to see Ethan with an elegant blonde woman, not much older than me, but with a hardness around her eyes that aged her. His ex-wife. They fell silent when they noticed me, and Ethan quickly stepped away, flashing that perfect smile again. Drive safe, Morgan, he called out. I'll call you tomorrow. That night, I lay awake thinking about Ethan's warm laugh and interesting stories. But I also couldn't shake the memory of his trembling hands, that whispered conversation, and the shadow that crossed his face when he mentioned his son. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Thank you for making tonight bearable. Dinner tomorrow? Ethan. I stared at the message, my finger hovering over the reply button. Something told me that saying yes would set events in motion that I couldn't control. But isn't that what I came to Seattle for? A fresh start, a new story? I typed yes and hit send, not knowing then that this simple response would lead me down a path that would test everything I thought I knew about love, trust, and the price of keeping secrets. 3 weeks into dating Ethan, and I still couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. The restaurant was perfect, the conversation flowed easily, and Ethan was as charming as ever. But every time his phone buzzed, that familiar tension would creep back into his shoulders. Tyler's coming over tomorrow, he mentioned casually, pushing his pasta around his plate. I thought maybe you could join us for dinner? My fork paused halfway to my mouth. Are you sure? Meeting your son. That's a big step. It's just dinner, Ethan said, but his knuckles whitened around his wine glass. Besides, he should know who's making his father so happy. I agreed, trying to ignore the knot forming in my stomach. The next evening, I arrived at Ethan's modern townhouse clutching a homemade apple pie. A peace offering of sorts. Tyler answered the door. Tall and lanky like his father, but with none of Ethan's warmth. His eyes, sharp and calculating, sized me up in seconds. Another one? He called over his shoulder. Really, Dad? Ethan appeared behind him, shooting me an apologetic look. Tyler, we talked about this. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. During dinner, Tyler barely touched his food, responding to questions with monosyllabic grunts. I tried making conversation about school, his interests, anything, but each attempt hit a wall of teenage hostility. "So, Tyler," Ethan said, his voice forcefully cheerful, "how's that business project going?" Tyler's head snapped up, something like panic flashing across his face before being replaced by careful neutrality. "Fine. Business project?" I asked, genuinely curious. "Tyler's quite the entrepreneur," Ethan explained. "He's starting an online." "It's nothing," Tyler cut in. "Just a stupid school thing." The doorbell rang, making both stone men jump. Tyler checked his phone and stood abruptly. "That's Mom. I'm out." "Valerie's here?" Ethan's voice had an edge I'd never heard before. He followed Tyler to the door, leaving me alone at the table. I couldn't help but overhear their conversation in the hallway. "You can't keep throwing money at this problem, Ethan." Valerie's voice was low but intense. "He needs help, not enablement." "I'm handling it," Ethan hissed back. "Like you handled everything else?" "He's following in your footsteps, and not the good ones." "Not now, Val. Please." I busied myself clearing plates when they returned. Valerie stood in the doorway, elegant and imposing in her designer suit. Her eyes met mine and I saw something like pity in them. "You must be Morgan," she said. "I've heard so much about you." "All good things, I hope," I managed, hating how small my voice sounded. "Of course," she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Ethan always speaks highly of his friends." The emphasis on that last word wasn't lost on me. After they left, Ethan poured himself a generous whiskey. "I'm sorry about tonight. Tyler's been going through some things." "What kind of things?" I asked carefully. "Teenage stuff. Nothing serious." He knocked back the drink. "Listen, I need to make some calls. Work emergency. Rain check on dessert." Later that night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Tyler's panic when Ethan mentioned the business project, Valerie's cryptic warnings, the way both father and son seemed to be dancing around some unspoken secret. My phone lit up with a text from Jenna. "How was dinner with the future stepson?" Winking face. I started typing. "Something's not right. I think Ethan and Tyler are." I deleted it. What exactly did I think they were doing? I had no proof of anything except a tense family dynamic, which was hardly unusual in divorce situations. Another text came through, this time from an unknown number. "Stay away from Ethan and Tyler. You don't know what you're getting into." I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. The message disappeared before my eyes, leaving me wondering if I'd imagined it. But the sick feeling in my stomach told me this was just the beginning of whatever I'd stumbled into. I never meant to snoop. But when Ethan left his study door open while taking a shower, the scattered papers on his desk seemed to call out to me. The anonymous text from last week still haunted me, and I needed answers. My hands trembled as I approached his desk. Bank statements, investment reports, and what looked like loan documents lay spread across the surface. One number caught my eye. A wire transfer to Tyler's account for $50,000. The shower was still running upstairs. I dug deeper, finding more transfers. $20,000 here, $30,000 there. All to Tyler, all within the last few months. My stomach churned as I noticed a pattern. The transfers usually happened late at night, often followed by angry text exchanges I glimpsed on Ethan's unlocked tablet. "Need more. They're not happy with the last payment. Tyler, this has to stop. I can't keep covering for you. Ethan, you don't understand what they'll do. Tyler." The shower stopped. I quickly straightened the papers, but a manila envelope slipped from beneath them, spilling photographs across the floor. My heart nearly stopped. They were surveillance photos. Tyler meeting with men in dark cars, exchanging envelopes in parking lots. In one photo he looked terrified, his face bruised. "Find anything interesting?" I spun around. Tyler stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. I was just looking for a pen," I stammered. "No, you were looking for answers." He stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. "Did you find what you wanted to know? Tyler, are you in trouble?" He laughed, but it was hollow. "Trouble doesn't begin to cover it. And now you're in it too." What does that mean? It means you should have listened to that warning text. My shock must have shown because he added, yeah, that was me. I thought maybe you'd be smart enough to walk away. Footsteps on the stairs. Tyler moved closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. Don't tell my dad about this conversation. For your own good. The door opened and Ethan appeared, hair still damp. Everything okay in here? Just getting to know Morgan better, Tyler said, his tone completely changed. She was telling me about her work at the dental office. I forced a smile, my heart racing. Right. Very fascinating stuff about plaque and gingivitis. That evening, I made an excuse to leave early. As I drove home, my phone buzzed with a text from Valerie. We need to talk. Tomorrow 2 p.m. Cascade Coffee on 5th. Come alone. I nearly swerved off the road when another text followed. Delete these messages. Don't tell Ethan. The next day, I arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early, jumping at every sound. Valerie swept in exactly at 2, looking immaculate in a business suit. Thank you for coming, she said, sitting down. I assume you've started noticing things aren't quite what they seem with the stone men. I nodded, unable to find words. What I'm about to tell you. She paused, choosing her words carefully. Let's just say there's a reason Ethan and I divorced, and it wasn't irreconcilable differences. The money transfers to Tyler are just the tip of the iceberg. She pulled out her phone, showing me a news article from 3 years ago. Ethan's investment firm collapsed after clients accused him of running a Ponzi scheme. He was cleared of charges, but some of his clients weren't the type to care about legal proceedings. They wanted their money back by any means necessary. She put her phone away. Now Tyler's caught up in their web too. My mind raced, connecting dots. The business venture. Is Tyler trying to gambling his way out of his father's debt? Valerie's eyes filled with tears. And I'm afraid they're both in too deep to save themselves. As I left the coffee shop, my phone buzzed again. A text from Tyler. Hope Mom filled you in. Now you have a choice to make. Help us or walk away. But choose fast. We're running out of time. Attached was a photo of Ethan in his office, unaware he was being watched through the window. The timestamp showed it was taken 10 minutes ago. I stared at the image, realizing I had crossed a point of no return. Whatever I chose to do next would change everything for all of us. I sat in Jenna's living room, my hands wrapped around a cold cup of tea, trying to make sense of everything I'd learned. The same room where I'd first met Ethan now felt like a different universe entirely. Let me get this straight, Jenna said, pacing. Ethan's ex-clients are threatening him, Tyler's gambling to pay them off, and you found surveillance photos? That's not even the worst part. I pulled out my phone, showing her Tyler's latest text. I think someone's watching Ethan's office. Jenna grabbed her laptop. What was the name of his investment firm? Stone Financial Solutions. Why? Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Because something's not adding up. Here, look at this. She turned the screen toward me. It was a financial news article from 2 years ago. Former Stone Financial CEO linked to offshore accounts. The article's been scrubbed from most sites, Jenna explained, but I found it cached. The money that disappeared? It wasn't lost in bad investments. My stomach dropped. You think Ethan stole it? I think. Jenna's words were cut off by my phone ringing. Tyler's name flashed on the screen. Morgan. His voice was shaky. I need help. I'm at the Grand Casino. Please don't tell my dad. Tyler, what happened? They're here. The men Dad owes money to. They saw me winning and... A muffled sound then. Just hurry. Please. I was already grabbing my keys. I'm calling your father. No. The panic in his voice stopped me. They said if Dad shows up, they'll release everything. The proof of what he did, where the money really went. It'll destroy him. Jenna grabbed my arm. This feels like a trap. She was right, but I couldn't shake the terror in Tyler's voice. I have to go. Then I'm calling the police. And tell them what? That my boyfriend's son is gambling illegally? That'll just make everything worse. The casino parking lot was nearly empty when I arrived. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Loading dock. Come alone. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, but I thought about Tyler, just a kid really, in way over his head. I found the loading dock, my heels echoing in the darkness. Hello. You actually came. Tyler stepped out of the shadows, but he wasn't alone. A man in an expensive suit stood beside him, looking amused. Tyler, are you okay? He's fine, the man said smoothly. Just helping us send a message to his father. You see, Ethan Stone doesn't just owe us money. He owes us revenge. I don't understand. No. He pulled out a phone showing me a video. It was Ethan younger sitting across from the same man. They were laughing, planning something. Something illegal. Your boyfriend didn't just steal from his clients, the man explained. He stole from his partners. Set us up to take the fall when it all went south. But now, he smiled coldly. Now we have his son. And his girlfriend. Tyler wouldn't meet my eyes. I'm sorry, Morgan. They promised if I helped get you here, they'd leave Dad alone. You really think they'll keep that promise? Enough talking. The man cut in. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to call Ethan. Tell him to bring the real records, all of them, to this address in 1 hour. If he doesn't. My phone buzzed again. A text from Jenna. Police on their way. Stall them. I looked at Tyler, saw the fear behind his attempt at bravado. Saw how much he was like his father, trying to fix everything himself, only making it worse. Okay, I said, pulling out my phone. I'll call him. But as I dialed, I wasn't calling Ethan. I was choosing sides in a war I never wanted to join, hoping I was betting on the right people. Because sometimes I was learning the only way to save someone is to first destroy their carefully constructed lies. The police arrived just as everything started falling apart. Blue and red lights flooded the loading dock. But instead of relief, I felt a new kind of terror as Tyler bolted into the darkness and the man in the suit simply smiled. As if this too was part of his plan. Morgan Rivers? An officer approached. Your friend Jenna called us. Are you all right? Before I could answer, my phone lit up with Ethan's name. The man in the suit caught my eye and mouthed something that looked like tick-tock, before melting into the shadows. I'm fine, I told the officer. Just a misunderstanding. But nothing was fine. Tyler was gone, and I had no idea whose side I was really on anymore. I answered Ethan's call with shaking hands. Where's Tyler? His voice was raw, desperate. The casino's security called me. We need to talk. Not over the phone. 20 minutes later, I sat across from Ethan in an all-night diner, watching his perfect facade crumble as I laid out everything I knew. The gambling, the threats, the offshore accounts. You don't understand, he said, running his hands through his hair. Those men, they're not just former business partners. They're dangerous people who you set up to take the fall, I finished. I saw the video, Ethan. His face went pale. What video? Does it matter? What matters is Tyler is out there somewhere, thinking he has to save you from your own mistakes. You think I don't know that? His fist slammed the table, making our coffee cups rattle. Everything I've done, everything was to protect him. By lying? By letting him gamble away his future. By trying to fix what I broke. The raw pain in his voice made me flinch. When the firm collapsed, those men threatened Tyler. Said they'd hurt him unless I paid them back double what they lost. The gambling was his idea. His way of trying to help. My phone buzzed. A text from Tyler. Meet me at Riverside Park. Alone. I know how to fix this. He's texting you, isn't he? Ethan's eyes were desperate. Morgan, please. Don't go alone. But I was already standing. You lost the right to make that call when you dragged everyone into your mess. The park was deserted at this hour, mist rolling in from the river. I found Tyler by the old carousel, looking younger and more vulnerable than I'd ever seen him. I got the records, he said without preamble, pulling out a USB drive. Everything Dad did, everyone he hurt. If we give this to them, they'll destroy your father. Maybe he deserves it. But his voice cracked on the words. And what about you? The gambling, the lies. Was that all just to protect him? Tyler's laugh was bitter. You know what's funny? I started gambling thinking I could win enough to pay them off, save Dad. Then I started winning and it felt good. Like for once I was in control. But you weren't. No. He looked at the USB drive. And now they own us both. Footsteps behind us. We turned to see Valerie emerging from the shadows. Mom. Tyler's voice was small like a child's. Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out? She moved closer, her heels clicking on the pavement. The late nights, the money transfers, the way you both jumped every time your phones buzzed? She held out her hand to Tyler. Give me the drive. You don't know what's on it, he protested. I know exactly what's on it. Because I'm the one who created those records in the first place. My head spun as another piece of the puzzle clicked into place. Valerie hadn't just been Ethan's wife. She'd been his company's chief financial officer. The question isn't what's on that drive, she continued, her eyes meeting mine. The question is, what are we going to do with it? I looked between them, mother and son, each carrying pieces of a story I was only beginning to understand. And I realized that sometimes the path to justice isn't about choosing sides. It's about creating a new path altogether. The USB drive felt impossibly heavy in my hand as Valerie led us to her car. The night had turned cold, matching the chill that had settled in my chest. Tyler sat in the back seat silent, while his mother drove us to what she called the only place left to fix this. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Ethan's desperate messages, Jenna's worried texts, and one new number that just sent coordinates and a countdown timer. They're watching us, Valerie said, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. Have been since the casino. Why didn't you tell anyone? I asked. About the records, about your involvement? Because admitting I helped create the problem wouldn't solve it. She caught Tyler's eye in the rearview mirror. Sometimes protecting the people you love means carrying secrets that could destroy them. We pulled up to an abandoned office building. The former headquarters of Stone Financial Solutions. The irony wasn't lost on me. Mom, we can't, Tyler started. We can and we will. Valerie's voice was steel. It's time to end this. The man from the casino was already waiting inside, along with two others in expensive suits. They looked more like board members than thugs, which somehow made them more terrifying. The prodigal family returns, the first man smiled. And they brought a guest. We have what you want, Valerie said, nodding at the drive in my hand. Do you? He turned to me. Miss Rivers, did they tell you what's really on that drive? Not just evidence of Ethan's betrayal, but proof that his ex-wife orchestrated the whole thing. My head snapped toward Valerie. She didn't flinch. The perfect setup, he continued. Ethan takes the fall, Valerie walks away clean with millions, and poor Tyler becomes the bargaining chip neither parent can afford to lose. That's not. Tyler stepped forward, but one of the men pulled out a gun. Careful, kid. Wouldn't want to end up like your father's last partner. The words hit me like a physical blow. What happened to the partner? Ask Valerie. She was there the night he had his accident. I looked at Tyler's mother, searching for denial in her face. Found none. You don't understand, she said quietly. What these men wanted, what they still want, it was never just about money. No, the man agreed. It was about power, control, the rush of playing God with other people's lives. Isn't that right, Valerie? My phone buzzed again. Ethan. Don't trust anyone. On my way. But who could I trust? Ethan, who'd hidden his past. Valerie, who might be playing us all. Tyler, caught between loyalty and survival? Enough games, the man said. The drive, Miss Rivers. Now. I held it tight, knowing it contained enough evidence to destroy everyone in this room, including Tyler's chance at a normal life. Morgan, please, Tyler's voice cracked. Whatever's on there, whatever they say about mom or dad, they're still my parents. The man's gun shifted slightly. Parents who've lied to him his entire life, who've used him as a pawn in their little power games. Maybe it's time someone showed him the truth. The truth. I laughed and it sounded hollow even to me. The truth is you're all so caught up in revenge and power that you've forgotten there's a 17-year-old kid's life at stake. Then give us the drive, he said softly, and we'll make sure he stays safe. I looked at Tyler, saw the fear and hope warring in his eyes. At Valerie, her mask finally cracking to show the desperate mother beneath. At the USB drive that held enough secrets to burn everyone's carefully constructed worlds to the ground. The sound of approaching sirens cut through the tension. The man's smile turned predatory. Time to choose, Miss Rivers. Who burns and who walks away? I made my decision just as the doors burst open, revealing Ethan with a gun of his own. Our eyes met across the room, and I saw the same realization in his face that I felt in my heart. Sometimes saving someone means being willing to lose them first. I dropped the drive and crushed it under my heel. The gunshot that followed seemed almost quiet in comparison to Tyler's scream. The hospital waiting room felt like limbo. Tyler hadn't left Ethan's bedside since the surgery, while Valerie paced the hallway, her designer heels clicking a rhythm that matched my pounding heart. The bullet had missed Ethan's heart by inches, a warning shot, the man had said, before the police burst in. But we all knew this wasn't over. "They'll come back," Valerie said, finally stopping her pacing. "They always do. Then we end this. Tonight." I pulled out my phone, showing her the backup drive I'd hidden in my cloud storage. "You weren't the only one keeping receipts." Her eyes widened. "You copied the files?" "Insurance. But not the version they wanted." I managed a grim smile. "I edited it. Changed just enough details to implicate their entire operation without destroying your family." "Why would you?" "Because Tyler deserves a chance at a normal life. And maybe you and Ethan do too." The elevator dinged and 3 men in suits stepped out, not the ones from before, but cut from the same cloth. Corporate sharks smelling blood in the water. "Miss Rivers," the tallest one said smoothly. "A word." I followed them to a private waiting area, feeling Valerie's eyes on my back. They didn't bother with introductions. "Our associates were impressed with your initiative earlier," he said. Destroying the drive was unexpected. Bold. The kind of move that suggests you understand the game better than most. "This isn't a game." "Everything's a game, Miss Rivers. The question is, which side are you playing for?" I thought of Ethan lying in that hospital bed, of Tyler's face when the shot rang out, of all the lies and secrets that had led us here. "I'm not playing for any side," I said, pulling out my phone. "I'm changing the rules." I showed them the edited files, enough evidence to bring down their operation, but carefully curated to protect Tyler's future. "You release these, you go down too," the man warned. "Maybe. But I've already sent copies to every major news outlet and federal agency." Dead man's switch. "If anything happens to any of us, it all goes public." The second man stepped forward, menacing. "You're bluffing. Try me. I've got nothing left to lose." I met his gaze steadily. "But you? You've got everything to lose. What do you want?" "Simple. You walk away. Leave the stones alone. Find new players for your power games." "And if we refuse?" I pressed a button on my phone. Then the first batch of files releases in 60 seconds. The tension in the room could have cracked glass. The men exchanged looks, having a silent conversation I couldn't read. "You know," the first man said finally, "Ethan said something similar once. Right before he betrayed us." "I'm not Ethan." "No." He studied me carefully. "You're something far more dangerous. A true believer." My phone buzzed, Valerie's text. "Tyler found something in Ethan's room. Get back here." 40 seconds, I reminded them. The leader nodded slightly. "Cancel the release. You've made your point." He turned to leave, then paused. "But remember, Miss Rivers, changing the rules doesn't mean the game is over. It just means the players get more creative." I waited until they were gone before my legs gave out. Valerie found me there, shaking. "Morgan? What did you do?" "What you and Ethan couldn't," I managed. "I chose truth over power." She helped me up, leading me to Ethan's room. Tyler stood by the window, holding a letter. "Dad woke up," he said quietly. "Asked me to give you this." The letter was short, written in Ethan's unsteady hand. "Morgan, I should have trusted you from the start. Maybe then we could have avoided all this. But watching you fight for my son, for our family, even after learning the worst of me, I finally understand what real strength looks like. Whatever you did to make them leave, thank you. And I'm sorry." I looked up to find Tyler and Valerie watching me, their faces showing the same mix of hope and fear I felt. "So," Tyler asked, "what happens now?" I folded the letter carefully. "Now we learn how to live without secrets." 6 months after the shooting, I stood in front of an easel in my apartment, trying to capture the way sunset painted Seattle's skyline in shades of redemption. The painting wasn't perfect like everything else in my life now, but it was honest. The door buzzed. "Tyler, right on time for our weekly dinner." That's new, he said, nodding at the canvas while dropping his backpack. He looked healthier now, the shadows under his eyes replaced by a teenager's natural energy. Just a hobby I picked up in therapy. I wiped paint from my hands. How's the counseling going? Good. Dad came to group today. He helped me set the table, a routine we'd fallen into naturally. He actually talked about the old days, about why he made the choices he did. And I think I finally understand. Not just what he did, but why Mom stayed quiet for so long. They both thought they were protecting me. The irony wasn't lost on either of us, how protection through secrets had nearly destroyed us all. Dinner was interrupted by a knock. Valerie stood in the hallway, holding a familiar-looking envelope. They're really gone, she said without preamble, stepping inside. My contacts confirmed it. The whole organization's disbanded. Just like that? Tyler asked. No, I said, taking the envelope. Not just like that. Your mother's been working with the FBI for months, hasn't she? Valerie's slight smile was answer enough. Let's just say those edited files you created gave them exactly the opening they needed. The envelope contained newspaper clippings, financial crimes, arrests, corporations dismantled. The kind of justice that happens in boardrooms rather than courtrooms, but justice nonetheless. Does Dad know? Tyler asked. He will, Valerie replied. When he's ready. We ate together, this strange new family built from the wreckage of secrets and lies. Afterward, Tyler helped me clean up while Valerie examined my painting. You know, she said thoughtfully, the gallery attached to my office has been looking for new artists. Local voices, raw talent. I'm not an artist, I protested. I just needed a way to process everything. Sometimes that's exactly what art is. She touched the canvas gently, finding beauty in the breakdown. Tyler emerged from the kitchen, phone in hand. Dad's asking if we're still on for Saturday. The weekly family dinners had been his idea. A chance to rebuild trust one meal at a time. Ethan was healing both physically and emotionally. Our relationship was complicated, but maybe that's what made it real. Tell him yes, I said. But remind him it's his turn to cook. After they left, I returned to my painting. The cityscape had changed while we ate, darkness creeping in, lights flickering to life. Like secrets coming to light, I thought, adding touches of brightness to the shadows. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You changed the game. Remember what that means. I stared at the message, feeling an old fear stir. Then I deleted it, turned off my phone, and picked up my brush again. Some threats were just echoes now, and I refused to let them haunt us anymore. The painting took shape under my hands. Not just Seattle's skyline, but the story of us. The dark and light, the secrets and truths, the broken pieces made beautiful by how they'd been repaired. In the corner, I signed my name for the first time, Morgan Rivers. Not just a dental hygienist who stumbled into someone else's drama, but a woman who learned that sometimes saving a family means first letting it break apart. Tyler had left his sketchbook behind. He'd started drawing recently too. Inside I found a note. Thanks for not giving up on us. Even when we deserved it. I smiled, adding one final touch to my painting. A small figure on a rooftop facing the sunset. Not hiding anymore, not running, just standing in their truth. Sometimes I was learning that's all the redemption we need.